Get ready to meet the next generation of female changemakers who are taking the lead to carve the shining future that they want to see. Gold Award Girl Scouts identify problems in their community and beyond, then take action to implement sustainable solutions. Get ready to meet some of those changemakers and the supporters who help them make the world a better place. This is the Make the World a Better Place podcast. Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for joining me for the Make the World a Better Place podcast. I'm very excited to be here with a special Girl Scout alum, a Gold Award Girl Scout, Isabella Orosco. She's now in the world making it a better place since her time as a Girl Scout, and I would like to introduce you all to her, hear a bit about her Gold Award project, and see what she's been up to since earning the prestigious Girl Scout Gold Award. Welcome, Bella.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about all of this.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. We love to have guests on to just hear a bit about what you've been up to since earning the Gold Award and ways that Girl Scouts can get involved themselves after getting a little bit of inspiration. So I'm curious, what have you been up to? It's been a few years since you earned the Gold Award. What's been going on?
Oh my goodness, so much. So I earned my Gold Award in 2020. So that was just a crazy time, I think, for everybody. But I immediately moved to New York and attended college at Marymount Manhattan College. And I graduated in May of this year with 2 degrees in musical theater and writing for the stage. And I'm currently in the process of developing 2 different podcasts that center around female representation in the horror genre. One is called Scopophobia, and that one is all about the intersections of the horror genre with various niche topics. So, for example, one of the ones I want to do an episode on is the iconic Janet Leigh scream from Psycho, and actually talking to a vocal specialist about how we produce that sound as actors, as well as the physical constraints it takes on your body to produce a scream in film, because you're doing cut after cut of that. And then the other one, Craven Conventions, is entirely about female representation in the horror genre and how we can have various conversations about women's health and women in the workforce through those films.
That's really fascinating. And what first interested you in the work, kind of drawing a line between science and the art of film?
I have always been a really big fan of horror movies, and my mom is I have to credit her for that. She raised me on Alfred Hitchcock films and Wes Craven. And when I got to school, I became really interested in roles that centered about female empowerment or rebellious women, history pieces. And it felt like a very natural line for me, drawing this history of women's rights and looking at their representation in the horror genre, because especially today we see so much media about the final girl. That's kind of taken on a life of its own on Instagram and various social media platforms. We see a lot of people using that phrase, and I got really interested in where that actually came from and what does it actually mean in film analysis and how that developed, and various feminist film critics. And I wanted to know more about that. And as I just kind of kept diving into that history and pulling the threads, I realized it was a really great resource and guide and entry point into talking about other very specific female-centered topics. So many of these stories are on the surface just kind of a scary story about this killer who's coming into the house and looking for the babysitter, but that's actually not what those stories metaphorically mean. They're actually about women entering the workforce, and what does the babysitter represent when women have this agency and choice to leave the home now, and what are the fears that creates for the rest of society when women have choices. And there's a lot that kind of goes into that of what actually constructs a societal fear in the world. And since horror is entirely about fear and targeting whatever the social consciousness is afraid of in that particular moment, I found that horror movies, decade by decade, year by year, are always very socially aware of the people and of women, especially because so many of those stories center around a female lead.
And that's really fascinating that you were able to consider the role that the individuals imply about society as a whole. I think a lot of people just watch a movie and take it at surface level, but how interesting to take a dive into what it means for all of us and maybe even how those things have changed over time. I am very curious to hear a bit more about that as you get the podcast rolling. Please keep me in the loop. I'm a horror buff as well. Very cool. So I'm curious to hear a bit about what you were into as a Girl Scout.
Absolutely. Well, Girl Scouts has influenced my life in so many ways. I think it was where the fascination for me of women's role in society really took off because the Girl Scout history is so integral to your time as a Girl Scout. You learn about Juliette Gordon Low, you learn about the sacrifices she had to make. She was a pioneer of girls having agency, of girls learning important skills outside of what was stereotypically expected of women to know. She wanted girls out in the woods learning how to camp, learning how to take care of themselves in really innovative ways. And that is something that has always really stuck with me. And I'm really grateful to the troop leaders that I had in my time with Scouts, just because they always made sure to refer back to Juliette Gordon Low as an example.
I appreciate the connection you just drew. That is, Juliette Gordon Low was absolutely a pioneer for, I mean, as astounding as it may seem, in the 1920s, girls might not have been out camping. That
Mm-hmm.
has been a strange thing to see girls, in their dresses, but they were with Juliette Gordon Low. But yeah, so what did you enjoy? Were you more outdoorsy? Did you like your badge work? What were you up to?
I was really interested in all that Girl Scouting had to offer. I did the camps that were at a place for girls. I did a lot of the badge work on my own and with troops. I did all of the journeys. I was really interested in creating like my own projects throughout my time with Girl Scouts. And I think my favorite part of all of it, like the things I was always really interested in, were usually more outdoors and about taking trips with my troop and with other girls and getting to explore like either new cities, or one of my favorite memories specifically was going to the capital of North Carolina when Roy Cooper signed the declaration of 100 years of Girl Scouts selling cookies. Actually got to sit in on a bill being passed. Having that background of parliamentary procedure and how the world and democracy works in America is very important, I think, especially since we're in an election year right now. And girls, your voice matters.
Absolutely. It's so important to build those foundations when girls are young. And like you said, give space for girls to have a voice and make decisions and be involved with the democratic process. And that really sets us up to be good citizens for life. And I think you're a testament to that, staying involved even after Girl Scouting, realizing the importance of what your voice means in the grand scheme. Exciting. You were into some fun stuff, outdoors, civics. I love that. That's that go-getter attitude. So when you were working through the program, you decided to earn the Gold Award, which is a big deal. That's a huge project. It takes a lot of work and planning and dedication. You need support to get it done. You earned your Gold Award. What did you decide to tackle, and why did you choose that topic?
Yeah, so my project was called War of the Web. It was a cybersecurity curriculum designed for middle schoolers in my local school system. And the reason I picked that was partially because I love taking on projects with subject matter that I start out knowing very little about. I love that journey of gaining confidence and competence with a topic. And cybersecurity was one that had started to permeate my awareness just because I had so many friends from the age of like 13 on that were downloading all of these social media platforms. You had TikTok, you had Snapchat and Vine and Instagram. I don't think Vine exists anymore. Like it's always changing. There's always an update to these platforms, but there's also so much danger within it because when you're young on these platforms, you don't necessarily know the safest ways to use them to protect yourself and to protect your identity. So I decided creating a cybersecurity curriculum based around like the most popular apps. I believe I did 4 or 5 within the curriculum, but it was like a step-by-step guide on all of the different settings you needed to be aware of and what they did to actually protect yourself online. A lot of people think like you only need to know cybersecurity if you're doing work in STEM, if you're working in science, if you're wanting to go into code, but it's something that's much more universal than that. We are living in a digital age and it's not going anywhere. Technology keeps advancing and that's not going anywhere anytime soon. So making sure that girls are aware and just people in general are aware this is something that can protect you on so many levels outside of whether or not you want to be an influencer or whether or not you want to go into a science-based field. I thought it was really important for myself because as actors and performers, I'm primarily a musical theater actress. So much of the work you get online is through social media platforms. It's not always just through email or more like databases and websites that are designed exclusively for that. Sometimes I get a direct message on Instagram that's for a job. And you're also expected to have a lot of information about yourself revealed to the public as an actor. So if you're interested in the arts, it's really important for you to know how to safely share that information so that you can still get jobs without it coming back to allow for a hacking or other various means of using your private information in public ways.
I get why some girls may shy away or think maybe this isn't for me when you're looking at the bigger picture. But once you take a step back, I'm sure you're so proud of your project and you were able to at such a young age accomplish so much. And I believe that looking back as an adult, you're able to draw inspiration from younger Bella. I'm amazed that you you have the confidence to seek out the things that you don't know and learn more about them and take that as an opportunity to dive in and research. And I think that that's a little something everybody can learn from. Don't be afraid of what you don't know. You're capable of absorbing new information, learning new things, and mastering concepts like Bella did with cybersecurity if you think it's important to you. So I want to just thank you for joining me today.
Of
And
course. Thank you so much for having me.
yes, it was such a pleasure, and we can't wait to catch up with you later. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us, and I will catch you on the next episode. See you later, Bella. Feeling inspired? Find more amazing Girl Scout stories like these at www.gsccc.org.